Now, on a visit to the United Kingdom ahead of the NATO Summit, US President Joe Biden is meeting or has met UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, stressing earlier that UK-US relationship is rock solid. This is their fifth meeting in the last few months. The two are also expected to discuss Ukraine. However, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has already opposed the move by the US to supply cluster bombs to Kiev. Sunak stated that the UK is signatory to a convention which prohibits the production or even use of cluster munitions and discourages their use.
It's good to be back. You know, we've only been meeting once a month. We've met in San Diego, Belfast, Hiroshima, Washington, here, and couldn't be meeting with a closer friend and a greater ally. And we've got a lot to talk about.
Before I know, but your first time as president, so we're very privileged and fortunate to have you here.
I think we're doing well. We're moving along in a way that's positive, but our relationship is rock solid.
Thank you.
Biden has described the UK as the United States' closest ally. Recently, both the countries signed a new economic partnership, the Atlantic Declaration. Sunak's last visit to the United States had not been a fruitful one, as Sunak failed to establish UK's ambitions for a post-Brexit free trade agreement with Washington. Later today, President Biden is also expected to meet King Charles III. The King will host Biden at Windsor Castle. According to reports, both of them will discuss a range of topics including climate, a topic King Charles has been advocating for a long time. This will also be the first meeting between Biden and the King since the coronation. And for the latest, our correspondent Alex Aizat is joining us live from London. Hi, Alex. There are some contentious issues between the two allies, such as the provision of cluster bombs to Ukraine, but Biden insists that there is no problem in the transatlantic ties. What more do we know about the discussion that President Biden had with the Prime Minister?
Well, it was a very quick discussion. It was only set for a 45-minute time frame, and President Joe Biden was late on his arrival. We did know that there was going to be some talk about military operations, and specifically in Ukraine. This all comes under the transatlantic discussion debate that they were having over the past couple of times that they've met Ukraine, and the military defense has been at the top of all the leaders' priorities there. And it's likely they would be talking about NATO. Later today, President Joe Biden will be heading over to Lithuania to start those discussions with NATO. Previously, we understand that the government has said that they would have liked the support from the US to put Ben Wallace as the head of NATO, although it does seem that from other conversations that President Biden has gone a different way there. But other conversations that are likely to have come out would be this push for the regulation of AI, that Rishi Sunak really wants the UK to be at the forefront of generating this potential regulation across all countries. And that's a discussion that he has been having over the past number of times that they've met. Of course, it wasn't that long ago that they had met in America, when it was said by Rishi Sunak, Prime Minister, that this trade deal between the UK and US that was put forward by President Trump's administration was off the table, and he was trying to work with the US in stage deals, but also really wanted to show how strong that the UK is now that they have left Brexit, and that they still deserve a seat at that table. And as you rightly said, President Biden will now go on to meet King Charles in Windsor.
Let's talk about that. In a few minutes from now, the King will host President Biden at Windsor Castle. This will be the first time the King will be hosting an American president. What has been planned so far?
Yes, well, it does seem that a lot of this meeting was really based around the meeting of King Charles and President Joe Biden. Of course, we all were aware that Joe Biden did not come to the coronation of the King. In fact, he sent his wife. And when Biden went to go and visit Ireland and Northern Ireland just previously, weeks previous to that coronation, he was very keen to show off his Irish roots. And of course, there is that whole issue between part of the country being owned by the UK. So it's likely that King Charles will have a few jabs about that. He's known sometimes for his sense of humour. But one of the major issues as well will be climate issues. When King Charles was Prince, he was very adamant about climate change. In fact, he was wildly mocked until it became something that everyone got on board with. And those are the policies that Biden will no doubt be talking to King Charles about. There isn't obviously for many hundreds of years been that great a camaraderie between the monarchy and the US. But this one issue of climate change and helping it push forward, well, that's something that everybody seems to want to get on board with. And it does feel that the US administration, specifically President Biden and his administration, would like to hear about what King Charles has to say and what might well come out of that.
Well, we have to mention here that this is not a state visit by the President of the United States to the United Kingdom, but there is some symbolism when it comes to his visit to the King. Probably you can tell our viewers what's the symbolic gesture that America is trying to portray to the world when the President meets the King.
Well, of course, we had July 4th, the American Independence Day, not too long ago. And now the President of the US is going to meet the monarchy, King Charles. And as I just mentioned there, they have had this tenuous relationship really since that Independence Day occurred. So this is quite a big deal for many within the two countries to show that the US president and the monarchy of the UK can get on when it comes down to specific issues and what they want moving forward. And because Joe Biden did not attend the coronation, there was a lot of rumours going about that he was a Republican, that he wasn't for the monarchy, even though that wouldn't have been anything to do with his particular country. But this goes to show that he is willing to build some bridges, and also potentially, if that is to do with a lot of policies moving forward, the G20, where Prince Charles had a statement, now he is King Charles and he still has some of those ambitions to try and move some of those forward. That's really quite interesting, not just for the US, but also for the UK too, moving forward. Rishi Sunak would be very keen to ensure that this goes well, because one of his big policies was about net zero and climate change. And of course, that is one of the issues as well for the US in general. So even though we have had the Independence Day of America not too long ago, this I think shows everybody that we have moved on, and as long as we're all on the same page about certain issues and certain topics, that there isn't any problems going forward. It's water under the bridge.
All right, our correspondent from London, Alex Aizat, stay with us, because we will come back to you when this much anticipated meeting between President Joe Biden and King Charles III happens. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.